Hello, Marianne. This is my oral assignment upon the observations I made whilst being in the US. First, I'll tell you about the interview I did with my host family. So, my host Talia lives alone with her mother, Diane. Her mother and her father are divorced, and her big sister is currently at university in London. Um, so, the mother's family, or Diane's family, has been in America since the 1850s. Her family is from England, Ireland, and Canada. None of her family came through Ellis Island. They came prior to the Ellis Island immigrational system. Um, Her dad's side is 100% Indian. Her granddad on her father's side came to the US in the 1970s, and he came by airplane. He had an arranged marriage with a woman back in India, who then later flew over to meet him. When I asked them whether any of their ancestors' culture affects them today, they answered that none of the cultural parts of from their ancestry really affects them today. The only thing would be that Talia is a vegetarian, and that's because her father is also, because that's a big part of the culture in the southern part of India, which is where her father's family is from. Moving on. When I asked them about American values, firstly they said that they don't really think very many of the classical, very stereotypical American values apply to them very much. They think of themselves to be more untraditional or more modern. An example is that Talia's big sister is a lesbian, um, which kind of goes against the very conservative values. But when they were to mention values, the first thing they answered was freedom. And Diane said, and I'm quoting, "It is tough because people are very divided right now." Quote ended. She said that, and then she also said that when she said that, she specifically thought of ICE as an example, um, and deporting people. She said that freedom has a big impact on their life, especially with the government staying away. And when she said that, you can kind of hear the very liberal American way of thinking coming from the very concept of America. Um, then they mentioned freedom of speech. They said that that's very important to them. It's not a value they consciously think about every day, but very unconsciously they are very grateful to have freedom of speech. They think it's a very important. They think it's like a basic human right. That's why they don't really think about it, because it seems so natural to them that of course I can say whatever I want. Um, then they mention patriotism, religion, and guns. Um, they think of that as being classical American values, though they don't care about any of those things. They're not very patriotic. They don't have a big flag hanging outside their house or anything. They are not religious in any way, shape, or form, and they do not have guns in the house. They did not answer me whether they were pro gun laws or against them. Um, but since they are democratic in their household, I am guessing more uh, against free gun laws rather than not well, pro. Um, then when I asked them about the American dream, they said that it is no longer accurate. Diane said, and I am quoting, "It is hard to come here with nothing. The government does not help you very much." Quote ended. She said that it is a nice idea, but it's very hard to actually achieve it as an immigrant coming to America with nothing. Um, so, to put it simple, they think that once it was a tangible, achievable dream, but that it no longer is, especially because the government does not support you very much, which is a value that they themselves, as Americans that are already established in the country, actually do value with the government staying away. And then something extra I wrote down was Diane said, again, I'm quoting, Talking about this just makes me more depressed about America. Quote ended. She said that because some people believe the American dream to be true, but the government does not help very much. She feels depressed that so many people come to America with a dream and a belief in achievability of this dream, that it is actually tangible, and then she does not think it is tangible, at least not anymore, until she takes pity on these people that still have this um, untangible dream, in her opinion. Now, moving on to the observations which I made whilst being in America. So, on a symbolic level, I noticed that when they communicate or interact with each other, they do not discuss a lot of serious topics, and if they do, it is mainly politics. I spoke a bit about like more serious topics, but that's mainly when I was discussing similarities between Denmark and U.S., and that was mainly when I was speaking with the mother Diane. Um, when I did overhear or eavesdrop at conversations between people my age, I didn't hear very many serious topics. Again, if it was me, it would mainly be politics. Um, some I noticed some of the girls from the high school has posted a bit of like um, Trump negative posts. They have reposted them on their story on Instagram, but in real life, I did not hear them speak of him. Um, I also noticed that they are not very physical when they interact with each other. They don't hug, they don't do a fist bump, they don't like dab each other up or anything. They really just stand with like a meter's distance between them, like basically at all times. Where I think us as Danes are a lot more physical, like hugging and just like leaning up against each other and so on. Um, then I found out that I was wrong. I had kind of a stereotypical belief that they would be very loud and have like big hand gestures and they would be shouting a lot. Um, but I found out that I was wrong. I was contradicted. They speak a lot like us, at least the household I was in. They spoke with a very low voice, again, like us, maybe even a bit lower, or like more calm. Um, the family I stayed at were not very patriotic. They didn't, again, they didn't have like a big flag hanging out outside of their window or anything. Um, yeah. Though I did see a bit of flags in like the city scene, kind of like in the towns. Moving on a heroic level, I did not notice very many references to cultural heroes while speaking there. Again, I was staying at a very democratic, democratic household, and but they never mentioned Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, or Barack Obama at any times. They only spoke poorly of Trump, and no other than that. I didn't hear them talk very much of celebrities either. I think we as Danes speak more of celebrities than what the Americans do, at least from what I like overheard. Um, moving on to rituals. So I noticed when they meet each other in the hallway, they don't like stop and have a small conversation. They just smile, maybe say hi, and then they just pass each other. Where I think as in Denmark, we're more, um, more oftenly stop and have a small conversation, which I thought was kind of weird, a little sad actually. Um, I noticed they say the declaration to the flag every single morning. Obviously, I only saw them do it once because we had to school once in the morning. Um, but they told us that they do it every single morning. They also did have the volleyball game, which the entire class attended, and where they also sang the national melody, which is what we also do at Denmark, so that's pretty similar, I guess. Um, Again, the household I was in, they're not very religious, so they didn't like pray before any meals or anything. Um, we ate dinner together at the dining table. not in separate rooms or anything. And it was with no TV. We had a conversation, sat down, spoke with each other, learned about a bit about each other's cultures. Um, in general, they did not use their TV very much from what I observed. Um, I noticed that Talia, my host, oftentimes would speak with her mother while she was cooking. Talia herself did not have any chores at all, which I found to be very, very weird. Because me myself, I have multiple. I also noticed that when they eat, one night we were served like soft fish kind of and broccoli, and they didn't use knives. And I that was a stereotypical belief which I had before coming to America, and I was confirmed. I told them about it, and I was like, okay, I would like a knife. They were like, what? You don't need it. It's soft fish. You can just like scoop it with your fork. And I was like, I want to take a knife anyway. But yeah, I also noticed, especially for lunch, she just packed snacks for her lunch when she was bringing lunch, which I thought was weird, not very nutritious. There was like no sandwich. It was like grapes, crackers, little candy, and stuff like that. Um, they in general just had a lot of snacks in the house, like every single cabinet, all the pantries filled with snacks. Um, yes, that's what I noticed. Moving on to values. So, some examples of times where I came across American values was I noticed they do use their freedom of speech again. That was probably also the value they appreciated the most. Um, an example is when they spoke poorly of Trump, which they oftentimes did. Um, Also, again, with the girls on Instagram posting Trump negative posts. So even though we would maybe end up having a hard time to enter the country if we had Trump negative posts or messages on our phones. In America, you are still able to do so and speak poorly of him, which they did a lot. I noticed a lot of patriotism, not in my house, but in the city. I noticed the moment we walked into immigration, there is a big American flag hanging. Obviously, that does make sense though. They had American flags hanging in the classrooms. I thought that to be really weird. Um, and last thing I noticed was like the gun laws affecting how the school was administrated. So um in the morning when you arrived at the school, I don't know if you saw, but there was always a police car stationed every single morning, and also at the football game there's multiple police cars. And I think it's kind of sad they have to waste resources and policemen's time on being stationed just because they can't change their gun laws because a few people hang on to their laws so dearly. Um, Also, when you went outside the school, like just the outside areas, whilst class was on, like during class, you would have to like ring a doorbell to enter again. Weird in my opinion. Anyway, that is all I observed. Thank you.